Sutra. For the sake of the Bodhisattvas spoke a great Vajra Sutra named the Limitless Principles, a Dharma for instructing Bodhisattvas of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. Commentary. For the sake of the Bodhisattvas spoke a great Vajra Sutra named Limitless Principles. The sutra was titled Sutra of Limitless Principles. The Buddha spoke it before he spoke the Dharma Flower Sutra. He spoke the Sutra of Limitless Principles as a Dharma for instructing Bodhisattvas of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. At that time, 6 portents were manifest. What were the 6 portents? 1. The portent of the speaking Dharma. 2. The portent of entering Samadhi. 3. The portent of raining of flowers. 4. The portent of the shaking of the earth. 5. The portent of the rejoicing of the assembly. And 6. The portent of emitting light. Most likely, these are the 6 portents. I may be mistaken, but I don't believe I am. I don't think my memory is quite that bad. Those are the 6 portents, and we are now discussing the first, the portent of the speaking of a Dharma. Someone may ask, but the Buddha have often speaks the Dharma and enters Samadhi. Why have such common occurrences suddenly become auspicious portents? This speaking of a Dharma differs from that of other times. This time, after he spoke the Dharma, the Buddha entered Samadhi. Having entered Samadhi, there was a rain of flowers. After the rain of flowers, there was an earthquake. After the earthquake, everyone rejoiced, and the Buddha emitted the white hair-mark light. These all betoken an extraordinary circumstance, thus they are called the 6 portents. For the sake of all the great Bodhisattvas spoke a great Vajra Sutra. The Bodhisattvas refers to the 80,000 Mahasattvas present in the Dharma Flower Assembly. They were all great Bodhisattvas who listened to a great Vajra Sutra. What is a great Vajra Sutra? These are the 7 qualities of great Vajra as cultivated by great Vajra Bodhisattvas. 1. The greatness of the Dharma. The entire Tripitaka with its 12 divisions of sutra texts is contained within great Vajra Sutras. The small Vajra does not include the great Vajra, but the great Vajra does include the small Vajra. So, first of all, the Dharma is great. 2. The greatness of the heart brought forth. What is meant by bringing forth the great heart? It is to bring forth the great heart of Bodhi, not the small heart of Bodhi, so that from the level of a common person right up until the realization of Buddhahood, one never retreats. An unretreating heart is a great Bodhi heart. 3. Understanding the great storehouse. This refers to understanding the doctrines contained with the great Vajra Bodhisattva storehouse. The great storehouse is the Bodhisattva storehouse. Understanding the doctrines of the Bodhisattva storehouse and cultivating according to the dharmas of the Bodhisattva storehouse is to understand the great storehouse. 4. The greatness of purity. Bodhisattvas who study the great Vajra can see the way, and their hearts are great, immaculate, pure, and clear. 5. The greatness of the adornment. With what do they adorn themselves? Blessings and wisdom. They adorn themselves with blessings and virtue, wisdom and intelligence. 6. The greatness of the time. They pass through 3 great asamkhya's of compass. The 6th may also be explained as the greatness of the cause. 7. The greatness of the perfection. Perfection refers to the fulfillment of the 6 perfections and the 10,000 conducts. They adorn themselves with the hallmarks and the characteristics and obtain the fruit of Bodhi. So this may also be explained as the greatness of the fruit or result. Because of these 7 qualities, it is called the Great Vehicle. Everyone says, the Great Vehicle, why that's just Mahayana? Well, what is Mahayana anyway? How big is it? I ask. How many qualities of greatness are connected with the Great Vehicle? And they don't know. Having heard the 7 qualities of the Great Vehicle, we should note that they differ somewhat from the 7 qualities of Mahasattva which were previously enumerated. So, is the Great Vehicle spoken for the sake of the Bodhisattvas? Speak means to expound. Sutra is a text. The word sutra has already been discussed. It is a Sanskrit word which is interpreted as a toning text, for it tolls above with the principles of all bodhisattvas, of all the Buddhas, and below with the opportunities for teaching living beings. It also has many other meanings which need not be reiterated here. Before Shakyamuni Buddha spoke the Dharma Flower Sutra, he spoke a sutra called the Sutra of Limitless Principles. Limitless principles means that the principles are uncountable. However, where does the limitless come from? It comes from the limited. And where does the limited come from? From the one. Where does the one come from? It comes from the markless. Where does the markless come from? It comes from the real mark. Therefore, it is said that the real mark is unmarked. The limitless principles come from the limited principles, and the limited principles come from the one principle, the primary principle. Where does the one principle come from? It comes from the markless principle. The markless principle comes from the real mark principle. The real mark is unmarked. Which mark does it not have? It has no mark of birth and death. The real mark is also not unmarked, for it has no mark of nirvana. Without the marks of birth and death or nirvana, it is the real mark. However, there is nothing which is not marked by it. Everything, for example, the limitless principles, all come from it, from the real mark. For this reason, the Sutra of Limitless Principles is also the Sutra of the real mark principles. Previously, I have explained the word all as a one. Why? For this reason, the one is limitless and the limitless is one. In fact, there isn't even one. That's the real mark. Where does the one come from? It comes from the absence of one. Basically, there isn't a one, but the people deliberately stick another head atop their heads and come up with a one. When there's nothing to do, they go out and find ways to be busy. Basically, there is no problem at all, but people fuss around and find problems to take care of. What is the function of the Sutra of Limitless Principles, which the Buddha now speaks? It is a dharma for instructing great bodhisattvas, a method for teaching and transforming them, instructing bodhisattvas in the methods used to practice the bodhisattva way. The bodhisattvas study the great vehicle dharma, of which the dharma is protective and mindful. Basically, the Buddha had no intention of speaking this dharma, and he remained silent for a long time, not discussing it. Why? Because the Buddha is protective and mindful of this great vehicle dharma. He had no intention of speaking it. If he did speak the Dharma vehicle dharma, it might cause all living beings to disbelieve it. Certainly, it would not be appropriate to their potentials. Since it was inappropriate, the Buddha waited a long time before speaking this dharma. This has been a discussion of the first of the 6 portents, the speaking of dharma. Sutra. After the Buddha had spoken this sutra, he sat in full lotus and entered the samadhi of the station of limitless principles, body and mind unmoving. Commentary. This is the second portent, that of entering samadhi. After the Buddha had spoken this sutra, after Shakyamuni Buddha had spoken this sutra, which sutra? Was it the wonderful Dharma Lotus Sutra? No, it was the Sutra of Limitless Principles, which is the Dharma for instructing bodhisattvas, of which the Buddha is protective and mindful. Since he had spoken the sutra, one might expect him to take a rest. He did not rest, however. He sat in full lotus. The lotus posture may be a full lotus or a half lotus, depending on whether both or only one of the legs are pulled up over the opposite thigh. Why sit in full lotus? It aids you in your cultivation of the way. The lotus position is also called the Vajra sitting. No doubt you have all heard me relate the account of the ghost-breasted Dharma master, and so I need not repeat it now, but I will talk about the full lotus position. When practicing Chan, if you sit in full lotus, then you are less likely to doze off. That's the first advantage. What is meant by dozing off? It means that you sit there and sleep. When you sit there in full lotus, you won't fall over, as it creates a solid balance beneath you. It promotes the easy development of your samadhi power. One meditates with the hope of obtaining samadhi power. The lotus position is helpful in this regard. When your samadhi power comes forth, your wisdom power will be increased, because wisdom power comes from samadhi power. Samadhi power comes from precept power. When you sit in full lotus, upright and sedate, that is your own inherent precept substance. From the precepts comes samadhi. From samadhi comes wisdom. Precept, samadhi, and wisdom, the three non-outflow studies, are born from full lotus sitting. Another thing, when you sit in full lotus, all the gods and dragons and the rest of the Eightfold Division protect you. With the gods, dragons, and others of the Eightfold Division protecting you, the demons, outside ways, weird demons, and strange ghosts, all the demon kings retreat far into the distance. They run far away. Therefore, the Vajra full lotus sitting is the most important factor in cultivating the way. When I was in Manchuria, the following event occurred. There was a Dharma teacher of an outside way who had over 3,000 disciples, but he knew that he had no skill in his spiritual cultivation. For this reason, he went everywhere seeking the way. He didn't dare let his disciples know what he was doing, because if they knew he did not have the way, they would no longer believe in him. He transmitted a non-Buddhist Dharma and at the same time traveled everywhere looking for the way. He looked for 2 or 3 years but still did not meet a bright-eyed, learned advisor. Later he met me. How did that happen? I had known him some time previously, but had not seen him for a long time. He had heard of me when I was sitting beside my mother's grave as an act of filial piety. He had heard of me but had never met me. One day I went to his house. The night before, his nephew had had a dream in which he saw me, even though he had never actually met me and did not know me. When he saw me in his dream, he didn't know why, but he sought the way from me. His name was Shuan Hua. He heard me say, "You can't seek the way, you can't cultivate the way." Why? Because you are wearing a skin of full retribution on your body. You have a skin of offense karma. He persisted in asking me for the way, and then I reached out my hand and from the top of his head pulled an entire layer of skin off of him. I threw it on the ground, and when he looked at it, he saw it was the skin of a pig. Then, in his dream, I said, "Now that I have pulled off your skin of offenses, you can cultivate the way." The day after the dream, I went to his house, for I knew his uncle, Quan Trung Si. He said, "Uncle, who is he? I dreamed last night that he came here and pulled a pigskin off of my body." The uncle said, "He is the one who cultivates filial piety from Hsuan Hua, West Yellow Banner in Lanlin. He is well known as the filial son." The nephew was delighted and related to his uncle the particulars of his dream. His uncle had the way uppermost in his mind, and he too rejoiced. "The way has been sent to our home," he said. "We should quickly seek the way from him." The two of them knelt before me and refused to get up. They wanted me to accept him as their teacher. I was 23 at the time. I said, "I can't be anyone's teacher. I don't have the way. I'm seeking the way myself at present." "Be compassionate," they pleaded. "We both know that you are a cultivator of the way, and we must bow to you as our teacher." I said, "Don't worry, I will take you around everywhere to seek for the way. When you meet someone you feel is qualified to be your teacher, you may bow to him. Don't bow to me as your teacher," and I refused to accept them. Today, we will just speak this far. Yesterday, we were talking about sitting in full lotus. Quan Trung Si and his nephew Quan Chang Hai had sought the way from me. Quan Trung Si had over 3,000 disciples, but he had no method by which to end his own birth and death. He very anxiously went everywhere seeking the way. After several years, probably about 3, he had not found it. When I went to his home, his nephew had had a special dream, and so he knew who I was. The two of them knelt before me, begging me for the way. I said, "I don't have the way, but I can help you find it. Come along with me, and we shall search everywhere for it, in all the temples and monasteries, or wherever there are cultivators, and when you meet someone who suits you, you can take him as a teacher." They came along with me, and we traveled to all the well-known places where people cultivated the way. I introduced them to the cultivators, but in all cases they were not satisfied with them and returned again to seek the way from me. I said, "I don't have the way. All I can do is instruct you in a method of cultivation." "What method?" "The full lotus sitting. Try it out and see if you can sit in full lotus." When the uncle tried it, his right leg stuck straight up in the air, over 6 inches off the bench. This was because he was one of the native mountain people, and they had the peculiar trait of having very large kneecaps. They were known as big kneecap bones. Although it was very difficult, still he could get into that position and sit, so I told him to practice sitting that way, then I left. Over 70 days later, I returned to his house. His kneecaps had been quite large to begin with, but now they had swollen even bigger. They were so swollen that he couldn't even walk. In Manchuria, iron-wheeled carts are used for transportation, and the wheels are about 2 inches wide. They make 2-inch ruts in the roads. Quan Trung Si was able to step over a cart rut. His legs were so swollen. Seeing this, I felt the practice was too severe, so I said to him, "You shouldn't practice sitting in full lotus. It's something you probably just can't manage. You can stop practicing it." He said, "Only if I die will I discontinue practicing this sitting. As long as I haven't died, I don't care how swollen my legs get, I shall continue to practice, because if in cultivating the way one is not able to bear pain, how can one possibly expect to succeed? If I can't even discipline myself to sit in full lotus, how can I possibly cultivate the way? I am determined to accomplish it." I said, "If you are going to be that way, I won't pay any attention to you. If you practice, practice. If you don't, don't. Do as you please. Then I left. After 100 days, the previous time it had been 70 days, I again returned to his house and saw that he could now walk. His legs were no longer swollen. I asked him, "Have you quit practicing the full lotus position?" "No," he said, "and now not only has the swelling gone down, but my legs no longer hurt. Both my legs lie on the bench. They don't stick up in the air anymore, and they don't hurt." I said, "Those with determination now know success. Your strong resolve brought about your accomplishment." I then taught him the methods used to cultivate dhyana. He practiced them, cultivating the skill of sitting in dhyana meditation. His nephew Quan Chan Hai had traveled with his uncle everywhere seeking the way. He sought it for 3 years and then 2 more, 5 years in all, and still had not found a teacher. He was extremely well disposed toward me and always gave me gifts on New Year's and other holidays, perhaps good things to eat or other things, a great many of them. I knew he thought well of me. Once I took him to the Three Conditions Temple, where I was staying. To meet the abbot, I had assumed he would bow to the abbot as his teacher, but he didn't. We started out for his house. About halfway there, we passed through a small forest. Suddenly, he grabbed my sleeve and knelt down. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I have traveled for so many years, and of all the people I have seen, I believe in you the most. Now I must bow to you as my teacher." Seeing him in such a state, tugging at my sleeve, I pretended to get angry. I jerked my arm away, turned around, and stormed off. I walked about a quarter of a mile and turned around to see him still kneeling there. He had been risen and tears were rolling down his face. I walked back and stood before him. "What are you doing?" I said. "You must accept me as your disciple," he sobbed. "Otherwise, I am not going to get up. I stay here kneeling until I die." "Oh well, kneeling until you die, that would be the very best thing you could do," I said. "If you want to die kneeling, go ahead, but nobody is ordering you to do it. Kneeling all you want, but I'm leaving." And I left her again. I walked about 1/3 of a mile and turned around to see him still kneeling. He hadn't risen. At that point, my heart felt a slight twinge, and I returned and said, "Very well, I'll accept you." He was the first disciple I received in Manchuria.